Good evening, everyone. I hope I am clearly audible. Good evening, Abhimanyu, Anish, Arpreet, Gauri, Monit, Revati, Shweta, Sudarshan, Vanshika, Anish, Ankita, Anmol. Thank you for being here in this space and time. My name is Professor Arjya Chakraborty, and I chair the HR program for SOIL. This is my 5th year at SOIL, and this is what we will be doing in the next few minutes that we have together. I want to make this entire, event that we have more participative. So I could first introduce the program, the HR program, to you. I could talk about the curriculum. And then we could also discuss about the learning experience at SOIL. And post that, post about 15 minutes, I would like you to ask questions. During the process that I am talking, I would request all of you to keep your mics on mute, your audio on mute, and you could post in the questions on the chat itself. Okay. Good evening, Sudarshan. Good evening, Tane. Okay. So as I said, my name is Arjya. I passed out of XIMB in 1993. My earlier childhood was in a place called Rourkela. It's a steel township. And I did my BSc in science, and then I moved on to do my MBA. I specialized in HR and marketing and took up roles at the manufacturing organizations for HR. According to me, at that point of time, I thought that it was best to engage myself in learning. And I thought manufacturing setups were the best place to learn HR. Post which I have, so some of the organizations that I have worked with are Hindustan Motors Limited, the erstwhile manufacturers of ambassador cars, Dunlop India Ltd, Godrej, and I also worked for GE, and it was known as GE Capital at that point of time. Post which I moved into academics, and that's a long story. But having worked in various organizations, I thought I could contribute to teaching HR and designing curriculum in HR, and this was a space that I wanted to explore. So I shifted to academics. I have taught at 4 institutes. SOIL is my 4th institute. I have taught at ICFI Gurgaon, I have taught at SPG and Dubai campus, and I've taught at Jaipur and Lucknow. And that's who I am. And I stay in Gurgaon, not far away from where SOIL is. You know, when we sit all of here together and virtually we are connected, we can literally feel around us the changes that are happening in the environment. The business landscape is completely changing. And each organization is relooking at the way they will have to do their business today. They are relooking at the business model. They are reconsidering the parameters and the processes that will perhaps enhance their way they work, but change the entire perspective of workplace and employees. And as we join today on 20th of March, it is very obvious to us as to what is happening outside with the COVID-19 outbreak. Maybe just about a month ago, we had no clues. maybe even about 2 weeks before. We had no clue that this is what it is going to be, and this is how we are going to relook at the way we do business. So therefore, it's very important for us to have a curriculum and a learning for our students, which is not just about HR, but it is also about business and the way business will be done in the future. Now, to do that, there are some kinds of competencies and skills that are a must for the students who will be working in the corporates and other businesses of tomorrow. So at SOIL, when we relooked into the way we have to teach HR and create competencies for HR managers of the future, we thought what is most important is that we give them a very definitive understanding of what business is. And therefore, in HR curriculum, the first term is a lot about understanding subjects which are related to business, which could be marketing, finance, operations. It could also be skills like advanced Excel. It could be a few analytical tools and a lot more. Once you have understood the models of the business and the strategy of business, we then percolate it down to understand what is the employee perspective. Having said that, we are of the view that when we teach management and management related topics, most of the theories and frameworks previously dealt with the 1P, which was profits. For us, the 3Ps are very important. It is profits, planet, and people. And in HR, we give an additional stress to the fact that how can we kind of look at things which are the cusp of all three, okay? Because people is anyway one area that we will explore throughout the course. But how do we look at the cusp of all the three? So therefore, as we go ahead and understand business in a much deeper perspective, we then come into the employee perspective and the employer perspective, and we deal with how do we kind of enhance the experience of employees at the workplace. The workplace of the future is constantly changing. As simple as more women at the workplace, as simple as the gig economy, where there's more freelancing. It could be things like the hybrid roles, where no role is a pure marketing, a pure HR, or a pure analytical role. It's always, it could be a mix of HR and analytics, HR and marketing, marketing analytics, so on and so forth, okay? So the nature of job roles themselves are changing. And therefore, when you come into the class, it is very important for you to understand and master those skills, which will help you to cope up with the problems of the future. Frankly speaking, we do not even know the problems of the future, okay? None of us. As I just said, we did not see COVID-19 coming in. What are the problems of the future? When we don't have too much of clue about that, we can at least prepare ourselves for better decision making. And to us, those skills and competencies are something that we focus on throughout the entire curriculum of HR. And so now once we have done the business concepts, we come down usually by the end of the first term onto HR subjects like talent acquisition, performance appraisal, compensation benefits, learning and development, so on and so forth. If you look at the entire HR piece in a business, it is about attracting the talent which is required for the business. It is about retaining those talents, and it is about ensuring those talent are engaged, and therefore they put in their maximum, their very best at the workplace. Now, all the HR subjects are within this, within this perspective. of how all of these things are come together into the business. But this basically percolates down from the strategy and the business that the organization has in mind. So as an HR person, I need to therefore map myself onto what the business is all about, and therefore understand what is the role that HR will play to enhance the business that the top management or the board has in mind. Okay. So therefore, a clear understanding of vision, strategy, mission, and percolating out to the HR, functions and interventions, and so on and so forth. In the second term, we work mostly with HR subjects. And in the third term, we again broaden out from business to HR and again broaden it out. And we get into subjects which are more about whole systems thinking. We get more into global HR strategy. We get into organizational change and consulting. And these subjects are important for you to have a macro perspective. So all the subjects are taught with a view that you have a macro perspective and you also have a micro perspective. One of the things which is very important to us is that, the philosophy that we follow at SOIL. And the philosophy is based on the 5 pillars at SOIL. And these 5 pillars are sustainability, diversity, ethics, mindfulness, and compassion. Okay. In fact, our tagline is compassion, competence, enthusiasm. Whatever we do at SOIL, whether it's academic or non-academic, these 5 pillars are interwoven into the entire philosophy of SOIL. So therefore, it is important for us to also study and implement each of these 5 pillars and the 5 values. These are actually the 5 values in our own lives. Okay. And it's important for us to therefore understand that as an HR manager, as a future HR manager and HR leader, it is important to understand how these will therefore, reveal themselves to you, in the future in the workplace. The other perspective that I wanted to talk about is that at SOIL, it is very important for us that our students go through a learning which is transformational. The entire curriculum is not about classes and moving on from one class to another class. To us, we try to design it like a journey that the student takes up from day one, that he or she comes to SOIL campus and experiences each of these aspects in their own lives. And it's a blessing to us that many of our alumni come back to us and say that in the 1 year period, the needle has certainly moved for them. Whatever they came with and whatever they are today, they have certainly been made to, they have made some transformation based on what they had in their minds. And therefore, when you come in, we design an individual development plan for each of you, okay? And each of you will be responsible for, therefore, implementing the individual development plans in your life. Apart from this, there are 3 important things that I would like to talk about. And one of them is this entire experience of the trip to the Himalayas. We go to an ashram and we stay there and we work in the rural villages there. The idea is to take a reflection on what we have learned and how we can therefore implement and imbibe it in ourselves. The second thing is a theater workshop. We call it Pillars of Inspired Leadership. We have 2 lovely theater personalities who come to SOIL to teach this course. Most of my students tell me that this is a course which really helps them to understand themselves much better and be more open and transparent. The other course is the HR lab, which comes up at the fag end of the year. And it's a practical application of all that you have learned in HR. And each one of you are evaluated based on how you are able to practically display those skills, and you are given a feedback. The focus is completely on learning. And learning is very individualistic. You know, I can teach, but you will have to learn. So teaching is very passive. Learning is very active. And learning is something which, is which binds all of us. Even I am learning each day, each moment, okay? This entire period that we have all gone through, this impending issue of COVID-19 is a huge learning. So life is a lot about how we learn and take up issues and move ahead in life. We try our best to do that within this 1 year that you are with us, and we try to tell, we try not to tell, we try to work it out in a manner that it kind of is something that each student can make it work for themselves. Okay. The last thing, and before I take up questions, is that we have an HR advisory board, and my board consists of about 16 members. We have 10 stalwarts from the industry all across the globe, in some of the best organizations in the world, like SLR and Ingersoll Rand, and we have another 6 alumni from our first batch of soil. We meet up, and the advisory board helps us to understand the recent changes, transformation, challenges at the workplace, and therefore what should be taught at soil, in classrooms, outside classrooms. And many of you will get to meet them because they come and take classes. And apart from this, I think one of the most important things that I feel for my HR class is peer-to-peer learning. For me, this entire group is very important. The bonding of this group and the way they help each other to learn, keep themselves motivated is very important. It is a rigorous course. A 1-year course has everything that possibly can happen in 2 years, but it also has a lot more things which is very soil specific. It is a rigorous course, and by rigor I do not mean that you have to be constantly studying, but it means that you have to be constantly engaged with this class and with soil and what is happening in this 1 year in and around soil. Okay, so I think at this point of time, I will have a look at the questions which have come up. Okay. Hi, Anjali. Daman is a nice place. How can we judge human behavior in a simulation or any other scenario, as a human behavior is very versatile and volatile in nature? And this comes from, I can't see the full name. Okay. How well is soil HR known in Indian industry circle with its unique curriculum? What is plant HR? Okay. Okay. How the HR will change in coming years? Okay. Okay. Fine, guys. You can open up your mic also if you, in case you have a, or you can. I think there's a possibility of raising your hand also. Okay, anyway, you can ask your questions. And yeah, these are very different kinds of questions. So I will first try to address, and all of them are important, but for some of them, you'll have to get into my classes in the sense of the question about human behavior. But how will HR change in the coming years? It's already changed and will change, okay? And the major change that is happening is because of technology. And with AI, robotics, and machine learning happening, you can see, as simple as the fact is that many of the organizations are engaging their employees with chatbots, and they are taking up information from the chatbots to understand the moods of the employees and so on and so forth. Okay. The interesting thing for you guys will be to understand that with the cusp of technology and humans, how do we therefore enhance our understanding of human beings and at the same time be able to work in organizations which are exceptional places which focus on well-being, because I feel that is important for the organization to sustain itself in the long run. Okay, so technology is one main, but there are many other things that are going to change. As I just mentioned, that business models are going to change. Um, for example, the last 3-4 days, the only shopping that I have done is through Amazon and online. You know, I would previously go and fetch my own vegetables, fruits, but we have either been busy or also going out is not so necessary. So you can already feel that the business models are changing, and these will become more complex. So managing complexity will be something that we will have to take up with ease. uh, okay, if we have the time. The other thing is, of course, about the workforce and how the workforce will become more younger. It'll have more of Gen Z is still not in the workplace. You millennials will have to cope up with Gen Z at the workplace. We had to understand and learn how to enhance our working with the millennials. The millennials have to learn how to cope up with us. And today, if you see, there are 4 generations at the workplace. There's baby boomer, there is Gen X, there is millennials, and there will be Gen Z. So that will be an interesting and complex thing. But how do we make it work to ensure that we have a good time and there's a lot of well-being, at the same time there is high amount of productivity at the workplace? So HR will have to up its game a lot. Plant HR is what I meant when I said I worked in the plant was that when you are taking care of HR at the plant, which would mean both blue-collared and white-collared employees. We will do a lot of plant HR cases, which are very famous Harvard cases in the class. And I asked my students to get into the shoes of blue-collared workers, union leaders, to understand what are they going through when they have the challenges that come up, and how should management be dealing with them. One of the things that I should mention is that we have a amazing professor by the name of Professor Dean Dayalan, and he teaches a subject called Transformational Industrial Relations, Transformational IR. The perspective is that how can management have an empathetic understanding about the workers, and how can there be a lot of proactiveness in the entire industrial relationship processes. Okay. Okay. How well is soil HR, known in Indian industry circle, with its unique curriculum structure? Our founder, Anil Sachdev, he was one of the founding members of Aisha Consulting Group, one of the first consulting groups in India. He then went on to set up Grow Talent, which was an HR consulting company, and he ran it very successfully. He brought GPTW, Great Places to Work For, in India before he hived it off. And then we have, he started Soil. This is our 12th year in existence. Anil is, a very reputed consultant. And the way we have looked at Soil is that it is inherently an HR organization. We truly believe that human resource is the most important capital. And therefore, a lot of our relationships are with some of the best companies in the world. And in fact, Soil is, if I can say, Soil is well known amongst the corporate world and the business world. And, that's where we are. We have a very good board. We have an excellent HR advisory board, and they are very generous with their time and the help and the suggestions and the updates that they provide us. We try to take advantage of that and keep our curriculum very updated, bring them into the class. In fact, most of my HR classes will have the head of HR, of a head of an organization, or head of a business function in the class, and they talk about their life situations in the organization. I call them live case studies. They come and they talk about the problems or the challenges, the issues, the way they have overcome them in the organization. And they allow the students to participate and give their understanding about what else could have worked. So it's a win-win situation for them. They get to hear from you as students as to what could be some of the other ideas that they should listen to. And we get to learn from them in terms of how they have looked at the new challenges and how have they been able to solve them and find better ways of doing business. How can we judge human behavior in a simulation or any other scenario, as human behavior is very versatile and volatile? Okay. One of the simplest things is psychometric tests, and which some of the psychometric tests are very highly reliable, and they are, therefore, there are techniques of creating these tests. Most of, the human behavior is about who you are under normal circumstances. Okay, it's only during stress that your behavior changes, and you try to get into a different mode. Okay, for example, with COVID-19, you see a lot of people hoarding. Okay, hoarding stuff, not worrying about the fact that the poor and the underprivileged may not be able to hoard, and they will still need to find their basic amenities. But people only think about themselves, and so sometimes we will have to work on the way people are under stress also. But yes, it is possible to understand the basic behaviors of a person under normal circumstances through some expert techniques and through reliable and valid measures. So when you come into the class, there's a lot of tests that we learn about to understand human behavior and to classify human behavior. Okay, have I answered the questions, Madhab? And so I go back and I say, how will HR change? How HRLP is going to equally help people of different years of experience. Okay, for some reason, I am not able to see the full name, but I know that it is somebody with NIV. Okay, maybe I'll just scroll up to check who is it. Okay, it may be Nivedha. Okay, how is it going? Yeah, Nivedha, I have spoken to you, I guess. Yeah. Okay, how is it going to help people of different years of experience? This is what I understand of your question. What you are asking is that in the same HR class, you will have some students who have 1 year of work ex, and there would be some students with 2 years of work ex, and some with 4 to 5, 7 years of work experience, right? The common factor would be that none of you have perhaps gone through a professional HR course before. Now, this is an assumption. Most of my classes, usually my students have not gone through professional HR course. They might have gone through a lot of other professional courses. They might have done some kind of a management program before. Uh, and there could be another situation where we have some students who have work-ex because they're engineers. They might have worked at various organizations, Infosys, Convergys, Cognizant for 2 to 3 years, but they do not have HR experience, right? It is not about saying that uh, each one of you will will learn the same thing, okay? Because as I just explained, the way our curriculum is, it looks at the entire perspective of how HR should be understood and how can we help you to take up HR challenges in the future, including business challenges in the future. So the subjects that we teach will have some basics, some theories and frameworks, and they will have some implementation projects, assignments, class discussions, role plays, simulation, case studies. About 40% to 50% of your evaluation with each course, which is of 25 hours to 30 hours, will be based on groups. So this is what I meant by peer-to-peer learning. Now, when you are taking up an assignment, you can do a simple assignment, and you can also take up your assignment to the next level. It depends on how much the student is willing to understand the subject and use it then and there for their projects assignments. Of course, the faculty is there, me and all the other faculties in HR, to help you to take you to the next level. But the eagerness that each student displays can be of various degrees. Howsoever, as a faculty, I must also tell you that when I walk into a class, I assume that each student out here in this class has come to learn and have come to become the best that they can. So therefore, the onus is on the student also as to how they learn and how they are able to enhance their entire perspective, thinking, behavior, work in what they are doing. There are some subjects which would be basic, and there are some subjects which would be highly enhanced, okay? Frankly speaking, sometimes students come back to me, and for the same subject, they might say that, oh God, this is such a difficult subject, and I don't know why I'm studying this. And there would be another student coming back to me and saying that, ma'am, this is such a wonderful subject. I mean, this is the one subject that I think is going to influence the way I take up HR. So you see, all of us are different, and all of us have our own takeaways from the same experience, from the same course. We are here to enhance your experience. We are here to handhold you. We are here to understand what is your need and be able to cater to that. Howsoever, each student will also have to take the onus of learning. Some students usually come back and say that by the end of the second term, they're very tired. They want to go back home, and not that we don't allow you to go back home, but sometimes they have a feeling that they can't cope up any longer. Some students even have that feeling at the very beginning. We coach them, we counsel them. We have a very strong mentoring program. We have each student has an internal mentor and an external mentor. And at the end of the year, when those students are able to cope up, they come back to us and said, thank you for being there. Thank you for pushing us. Thank you for guiding us through these times. So, Niveda, I hope it answers your question. If you want to further ask any question, you're most welcome. In the meanwhile, let me get to the other questions. What is the usual academic background of student in an average HR class? My HR class is not average. It's very, very good. It's high class HR class. It's not an average class. The average academic background would be, the divide would be that half the class is, more than half the class is engineers. We have a lot of students from arts and commerce background. I have also had a student who had, not one student, each batch I have usually one student who has appeared for a CA inter and then come over. Yeah, so that's how it is. And in some years, we have also had students who have, done an MBA from another college and have worked in HR for a few years, but they still want to raise their game and they come to us. I hope, Arpit, that answers your question. Uh, yeah, you can ask me further questions and I'm completely open to it. Ma'am is facing arrows of questions. Let us allow her to answer our questions one by one. I always face arrows of questions. And I especially had a student called Nimisha, I'll tell her this. So whenever I'm walking out the class, Nimisha will always raise her hands. Ma'am, one last question. How are we going to handle the automation in HR? How does HR analytics help in the field of HR? Okay. I'm from an arts bachelor's in public administration with public policy degree. In this course, for any kind of a background, would I find myself in basket of apples? In basket of apples and oranges in the classroom. Diversity. Diversity is always good. There's amazing learning that happens from diversity. You broaden out your thinking because you are listening to others, and one of the most important principles for us in HR is to listen. Listen deeply, listen with the perspective that where is the other person coming from? And I think nowhere this is more important than human resource management. You have to listen very deeply, and as I always quote, as Anil says, listen as if your life depends on it. So, what has inspired you to take up HR as a profession? Nilisha, what inspired you to take up HR as a profession? Okay, I'll tell you that. Basic quality in a person wanting to become HR professional should have or inculcate. Okay, good questions. I think this is a very good question. Okay, let me take up these. Why did I take up HR? I graduated in science, and my father he's an engineer at the steel plant, and he took me to the plant, and I did some internships even when I was doing my bachelor's. Though at that point of those years, there was not too much of internships available as it is now. I saw a lot of people at the plant, and I saw a lot of people walking in and out of my father's, office. And though he was a production guy, and I saw that there were a lot of people there were a lot of workers who were protesting outside for some issues. And at the same time, they came to my father's room and they're serving him chai and pakoras, and my father was talking to them and chatting with them. And so when I was coming back, I asked my father about what is it? These are the same people who were protesting. You have so many people at the plant. How do you manage them? And slowly, I got into more conversations, which made me understand that for a business, it is imperative that we have good talent. And to be able to understand this entire perspective is to not just understand the theories and frameworks, but also the psychology of being, the psychology of human being. So when I got through my ZAT and I sat for the interview, I prepared to understand if I could get through the HR electives, the HR specialization. And I think I had some wonderful HR professors. Uh, so that kind of made me take up HR. And I have not looked back ever since. I loved my work in HR. I think I could enhance myself. It was more about meeting people from various different businesses and understanding the whole, unraveling this whole understanding of how you should be able to enhance business through human capital. HR analytics, okay. Even when I started my HR journey in 93, it was very important to measure what you are doing, okay? For example, how many days of training does an employee receive? Or how many employees, have quit in a month? How many employees need to be promoted? How many employees are in the succession planning? For example, I need to move out, somebody else need to take in, have I trained 3 people, for my role? So numbers were always important. And as and how, HR has become more strategic and, it's important to show and understand numbers. It is not just to understand numbers, it is about making better decisions equipped with numbers. Today, we deal with a lot of data. We are creating data at every point of time. When you punch into the office, when you walk into the office, when you send out a mail, when you talk with someone, or when you, give a report or a 360-degree feedback, there's a lot of data that we create at each point of time. If we understand which are the data points which can help us make better decisions about a certain issue that we are facing or about a certain problem that we are facing, we not just go by what we think is correct, but we supplement it with a lot of good data. Okay. So we have always done HR analytics. Previously, we used to do it in Lotus Notes, Excel, and so on and so forth. It's there are a lot of new, other tools which have come in. Today, when I do research, analytics is very important. It's very important to understand the robustness of good data and to be able to handle data to make decisions and enhance your decisions. Okay. So we have designed a very good course at SOIL with Dr. Das, who is our analytics professor. And what we do is we look at each intervention in HR and we look at what are the analytical tools and matrices that fit into talent acquisition, performance management, compensation, so on and so forth. Okay. Okay, so somebody who mentioned that I am from arts, bachelor's in public administration, public policy degree in this course for any kind of background, would I find myself in a basket of apples and oranges? Um, I'll tell you 2 things, and it may not be a direct reply. When I walked into my XIMB class, I did not have WorkX, and that was not a great thing because all the students in my class had a work experience. I only had done some internships. I had no permanent, I had not done any permanent roles. And I literally thought that, I will not be able to cope up. I learned from my peers. I learned the way they studied. I learned the way they addressed issues in the class. I learned the way they would give their presentations. And if you are keen on making it work, you can, you have to be uh, somebody who is adaptable and who can absorb. So learning agility is very important. Learning adaptability and learning agility is very important. In fact, if you look back to your class 10, most of us are very fond of our classmates in class 10 or 12. And you will always find this girl or this guy who was very funny, who was very different. Can you imagine your class without him or her? And if you really reflect, and as you grow older, you will see those some of those wonderful things that maybe happened because this person was there. Okay, so apples, oranges, mixed together make wonderful diversity and amazing learning. Learning is a lot about perspectives that come in. So the you can already see that the different kind of questions coming in from students. And if we can answer all of these questions, this would be a wonderful learning experience, right? So it is important that apples and oranges and all other fruits are mixed together, and we have a great learning. The basic quality in a person wanting to become an HR professional and should have or inculcate. The basic quality that any person should have to be able to do business is about uh, yeah, is about the values that you have. Okay, if your values are strong, by which, and I already told you about the 5 values that soil, the 5 pillars of soil. There are many other values that we have, and each one of us have our values because of the family that we belong to or because of our background. And there are also, values that we would like to take up. Now, therefore, it's important to be a good human being, somebody who's willing to help others, somebody who really is keen to go beyond themselves. To me, that's the most important factor for any human being, whether HR or not HR. The one aspect of an HR person is possibly, today to keep on learning. Okay, each one of you, in your career, will come up with various situations and challenges. Just give me a second. Each one of you will come up with situations and challenges which will make you feel a bit incompetent, a bit challenged. And therefore, the most important part is to quickly learn, adapt, move on, and assure yourself that if there's any challenge that comes on, I should be able to handle it. So you should have that resilience, and you should have that, through the sankat, as you say, to be able to say that, yeah, bring it on. I'm going to face this and I'm going to get over that. Uh, Resilience is a lot about saying that how can I cope up with things which I need to do to be able to become a better person, manager, brother, sister, son, daughter, husband, wife, whatever it is. Okay, and each one of us owe it to ourselves to be the best that we possibly can. So, learning is a very important aspect for HR. The other aspect of HR that I think is very important is to be able to listen well. When I'm saying listening well, it means that you listen to every voice in the table. You listen to every person who is willing to share their experiences and not share their experiences. because listening is not just about what people are saying. Listening to me is a lot about observing. As an HR person, when you observe your employees well, there's a lot more understanding that happens as to what needs to change and what needs to be done at the workplace. And to be able to develop that quality by saying, it's not about what I understand or what is it that I think in this situation. Keep yourself separate and say that what is happening at this place. Okay, so you will have to separate out yourself and distance yourself from the fact that whatever I know, whatever I think is the right thing to be happening or the right thing to do, and say that let me listen to the employee, let me listen to the customer, let me listen to the person on the other side. And you will yourself find that a lot more solutions and a lot more better opportunities for dialogues and conversations coming. Okay, so these to me are very important factors for a good human resource person. Um, okay. What kind of skills should we have to begin a career in HR? Uh, some of the basic skills should be, even if you have not done it, and there are various courses available today, online courses, to be have some amount of, good reading, writing skills. And these reading, writing skills are about having a knack for uh, reading what is happening in HR. So to some of you, I will send across mails, and you could go to some of these sites which are very good for HR understanding, and they come up with updated HR articles. You can go to hbr.org, which is Harvard Business Review, and you can download 13 articles for free, hbr.org. You can go to SHRM, Society for Human Resource Management. We are certified by them. You can go to the site of People Matters, and you can also go to the site of Forbes and download articles, and Forbes.org, okay? Forbes.org. You can read up on some of the recent HR topics. So reading is an important skill. Writing is an important skill. Most of us will be writing reports. We will be structuring reports. If you work in an organization, you should be able to write gist of issues happening, send across right kind of mails to people. That is important. It is important to understand that today you should have a quantitative aptitude. Quantitative aptitude does not mean that you should know all the formulas, but you should have an understanding of numbers and data. So those of you who sometimes want to say that, this is not my forte and this is not something that I would like to do, and therefore I'm choosing HR, numbers are very important. Okay, it's not about escaping the fact that you have to you no longer are interested. It's not about that. It's about saying that how can you better equip yourself to understand numbers and what is the data talking about. So matrices, measurements are very important. How does a student find herself a fit in the kind of the role she wants to go? Students arriving from different backgrounds of academic and experiential learning, how does a student find herself a fit in the kind of role she wants to go? Go, girl, go. As I have, there's many fields in which we can grow in HR. Could you please tell us few brief eyes on it, okay? And quarantined at home, and what should I do to build up my skill set? Which books should I read that would help in long term before beginning my professional counsel? as a part of my course, I make my students compulsorily read some books, and initially they really don't like it, and they come up to me and say that, "Ma'am, ये जरूरी है क्या? You know, ये इसका कुछ shortcut, कुछ उपाय बताओ," and all of that. But once these people read the books, and you can ask the present batch students, you can find them on LinkedIn. They come up to me and say that this was a good learning, and and they have now selected some other books to read. Personally, to me, reading is very important. Okay, I feel reading enhances your language, reading enhances your vocabulary, and reading helps you to cope up with a lot of new things which are happening on the world outside. Because usually, and I don't mean reading casually from Google or from any other websites, okay? Reading books which are by good authors, who are, who have researched on the topic well, is important, because today the media is full of stories, and you don't know what is coming out, and how far what is saying. And I know many of my students tell me that they listen to a lot of YouTube. So some good TED Talks are important, but also if you like a TED Talk and you like the author, please search for a book from the same author and read it. There's one author whom I read, and who I was I learned a lot from this. His name is Yuval Noah Harari, and I read 3 of his books. And there's a lot of learning that I think I personally got from understanding the view of the world today and the view of the world in the future. There's a lot more authors that I can name. For example, Peter Senge, and his understanding of good to great, and other such concepts in management. There are a lot of authors. I can write to you separately on that. If you send me a mail, I hope you know my mail ID. You can write to me on that. There was another question about saying that, how do I find the right kind of a role? Okay. Presently, the roles which come in for recruitment, we have about a few roles which are very common when organizations come in. These are HR generalist role, whereas an HR professional, you must know all aspects of HR. There's a business partner role where you have to know all aspects of HR, and you have to be implementing HR for a particular business, business core or a business area or a center of excellence, so on and so forth. All of these require good understanding of overall HR. Then there are specialist roles, which could be a talent and acquisition role, which could be a compensation benefit role, which could be an employee engagement role, or which could be a OD role, organization development role. Apart from this, a lot of roles which come in today are for HR analytics. And, for example, this year I have had Prati, who joined an organization for HR analytics. And many others also were, asked on their understanding of HR analytics. HR analytics roles are also coming in. We have a subject in which, 2 subjects actually. The first subject comes up almost at the end of the first term or beginning of second term, and it's called Digital Workplaces. Meeta, who teaches this course, is engineer herself and has worked in HR for a very long time. And together we have developed a course which takes you by what are the various aspects in workplaces today, and therefore how is digitization moving in. So the digital transformation and the digitization of processes are dealt with, okay, in the course. We have another course which is taken by Roma Bateja, and it's about artificial intelligence tools in HR. The way this course is done is we invite various organizations who have artificial intelligence tools, and they come to the class and they talk about how the tool enhances the employee experience, or how does it help HR in the organization? The class then talks about the shortcomings and the good things about the HR tool, and there's a discussion on what can happen. In fact, in many of my projects, students have worked on projects with Amber and many other such AI tools. As you go through the entire course, you might have a predetermined idea about what kind of role you want to come in for. My suggestion is that have a little open mind, come in, soak in, and then decide by the time placements come up in October and November, what are the kind of roles that you would like to apply for. Howsoever, as an HR professional, you should be open to all HR roles, because you will not be doing only talent acquisition or only compensation and benefits. As you grow up in the organization, and we call it the lattice growth, it's not just straight rise, but you also need to understand the business and work in other departments and move up. As you get into this kind of a growth, it is important that you understand all aspects of a business. The second thing is go up the ladder. Even in those cases, it is important that you understand all aspects of the business. Otherwise, you remain perhaps in one area of the organization. Today, HR leaders, CHROs, CXOs, Chief Strategy Officer, and many of the people who lead organizations are the people who understand all aspects of the business. And they couple it with the understanding of what is needed in the world outside. How is the world outside changing? How do future workplaces look like? How do future employees look like? What will be some of the changes? They might not know it all, but they keep themselves flexible, nimble to be able to understand, adapt, and create new processes and move on. One of the most important things is that for every learning to happen, you need to unlearn something, okay? So the process happens that if you have to unlearn a few things, you can then find the space to relearn it in a different manner. To explain it very simply, for example, till about your graduation courses, you could have studied your subject 7 days before, and you go in and give your final exam. When you come in for this course, it's important that you attend each class each day, because there will be a continuous evaluation process. And for us, what is more important that you learn on each day rather than by just through an end term exam. In fact, for some subjects, you may not have an end term exam. You might be evaluated based on the continuous classroom uh, participation, and there could be surprise tests, surprise quizzes, so on and so forth. So you unlearn the fact that a course is just about attending classes and giving a last exam. A course is a lot about imbibing everything which is happening during this entire period, and then enhance your own understanding about how you need to take yourself to the next level. In analytics, do I get to learn softwares as a part of the course curriculum? Yes. We usually deal with R and Tableau. If you're interested, we have courses on Python, and you can take them up. Dr. Das would be very happy. I will just post my mail ID in a minute. My question to you is, why are, Soumya, why are roles and placements less in HR compared to BLP? Who said that? That's not, most of my students are placed, and we have a very good average HR salary this year, extremely good. Each year we have been improving ourselves. HR placements are pretty good, and couldn't have been better. Yes, HR roles in organizations are less. An organization will not hire, uh, 3, 4 HR. At the max, they'll hire 2. Okay. In soil, we get the best of the organizations to the campus to be able to evaluate your students. An organization will not select you because you are a soil student and because they have great relationship with soil. They'll recruit you only if you come up to their expectation of good talent. And very proudly, I say that all my students in the best of the companies this year, and you've already heard my placement said, in the best of the companies have been able to keep up to that standard and got selected. Sometimes they even had to face, rounds with other colleges. It is important that there is some amount of, what should I say? Uh, when you get something with a little bit more of hard work, the success tastes sweeter. So yes, we have good placements happening. You can speak to my students in this batch. Will we be having internships as a part of our curriculum this year? We may not have internships because we have not been able to get very good projects for the internships. You know, it For some students we get very good projects. For some we don't. Uh, we have tried very hard at this, but what happens is, students join us by April, and we have our placements happening by November first week. We need to cover all the subjects before you go in for your internships. Otherwise, internships don't add value to you because you will be doing an HR internship, right? So in that period, when we cover a lot of HR subjects, sometimes our students find themselves overburdened. But having said that, we will do a lot of projects, and they're equivalent to any internships. We do a lot of projects in our courses, in our subjects, and these are also based on live interactions with the organizations. Ma'am, how do we know which role is a bit fit for me during placements? First, you have to do the course, then you will know. First, you have to study HR, then you have to go through this entire process, and then you will know which role is fit for you. Because each one of us grow tremendously in understanding subjects, courses, topics. And then when organizations come to us with a role, we realize, okay, this is something that I would like to, take up. Having said that, again, I repeat, you should not be choosy about organizations and roles. It's more about what is experience that you are getting in the first few years, because that will help you, step up your own game. And you should be open to all HR roles, because if you are not, your HR career at some point of time will become stunted. Absolute grading or relative grading? Can you explain briefly about the exams? Will there be open book test grading system? Kindly explain. Anish. Okay, Anish. Yeah. As I said, our evaluation is, a continuous evaluation. Some exams are open book, some exams are cases, some exams are simulations, some exams are projects, some are assignments, and there could be a mix of all of three. The entire evaluation pattern depends on the course and what are the learning outcomes for the course. It is very important for us that when you get the course outline from the professor, that there's a learning outcome. At the end of each course, you should be telling yourself, these are the skills, competencies that I developed, and these are the things that I know. Now, based on those basic learning outcomes and enhanced learning outcomes, your evaluation is done. Okay. I think in the interest of time, we need to wrap up, but there was one more question: absolute grading or relative grading? There's no relative grading. Okay. It is based on how each student performs, and our grading is a 5-layer system. And we talk about role models in terms of people who are really putting in extra. And then we have accomplished people who have done whatever was required and have performed. We have competent for people who have performed at a level in which they have just understood the subject and been able to contribute. And below that, we have beginner and novice. For us, therefore, it is important to give you a feedback in the grading format as to where you are in terms of your performance on the course, rather than your just understanding the course. Okay, how have you performed? How have you understood, imbibed, and been able to perform in the course? Okay, I think it's been an hour and 15 minutes. I didn't realize this, guys. It was a very nice meeting up with you, albeit virtually. I will just type in my mail ID and I'll send it across to you guys. So here it goes: arjya.chakrabarty, has that gone correct? @soilindia.net. Here you go, guys. This is my mail ID. I would love to hear from you. And looks like a very interesting class already, huh? Very keen on learning. जब आओगे तो देखा जाएगा. Nice. Okay, guys, take care. Stay safe. Try to help the senior citizens around your home. Be a little mindful that they might not be able to come out of their houses. They might need help. If you are somebody who is healthy and who is young, you can help your neighbors, people who need help. Try to utilize this time to self-reflect, learn, and become a better person. Okay, we will soon get over this. Take care. And then we will be able to give each other physical hugs. Bye-bye.